A few other big issues this week. One of the world's biggest elections in number terms is happening tomorrow. More than 200 million voters in the Indonesian election. Who do you expect to win, and what do we know about them?
Well, I think all the polls indicate that Prabowo Subianto, the current Defence Minister, is going to win. And his running mate is the current President, Joko Widodo. It's his eldest son. Now, Indonesia is a wonderfully complex and cross-grained and contradictory and fabulous country. It's given me nothing but joy over my 45 years of journalism. You can take a glass half full or a glass half empty view of this. Jokowi has been a pretty good president. He has stabilised Indonesia. He's got 5% economic growth a year, and he's shown a broad commitment to democracy. That's the glass half full. The glass half empty view is that 5% is not enough to make deep inroads into poverty. Indonesia's growth comes largely from its growing population. He has compromised some institutions, Jokowi, especially the Anti-Corruption Commission. And in choosing Prabowo as his successor, he chooses a Suharto-era general who had a shocking human rights record way back in the 1990s. But the magic of Indonesia is such that Prabowo has transformed himself. He's become an avuncular uncle figure. He's not the same man he was 30 years ago. I had dinner with him a few years ago in Jakarta, and he's a jolly old chap. And Jokowi, unlike all other recent presidents, has found a way, by having his son become the vice presidential candidate, he's found a way of continuing his influence beyond his time in office. So I think Prabowo shouldn't scare the horses, but historically he has a record for being a bit mercurial, and he can have quite a temper, but it's up to us. He knows Australia very, very well. All those years in the military, got very close relationships with the Australian military. And I think we ought to just pay tribute to Indonesia that with democracy breaking down in so many parts of the world, they're having a peaceful democratic election.
Yeah, incredible success story. Let's hope that continues. And you always think back to their ability to demolish Jemaah Islamiyah in the wake of those atrocities in Bali and elsewhere. Let's look at the issues in the United States now, the trouble that Joe Biden faces off the back of that special counsel report. It really was an extraordinary news conference and a debacle for him in the White House.
Yeah, I think so. So both the leading candidates are giving us terrible pause for concern at the moment. Trump saying he'd encourage Russia to attack NATO allies which don't pay a fair share into their defence budget. But Biden is plainly mentally not competent to be president. So the special prosecutor, Robert Gurr, was appointed by Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland. So Merrick Garland said that Robert Gurr is a completely credible mainstream legal figure. Now, Gurr said Biden did willfully and knowingly take confidential documents after he left the vice presidency, but he declined to prosecute him because he said basically he's not competent to stand trial. And what Gurr said, there's no reason to doubt it factually. He said that in his testimony, Biden could not recall when he was vice president, could not recall when his son died, and had enormous trouble reading his notes and getting information from them. Now, people voted for Biden because he wasn't Trump predominantly, and he still isn't Trump. But his staff try to only put him out for very, very short encounters that are spontaneous. Otherwise, he reads off teleprompters. And, he's a good patriot, Joe Biden. Nobody thinks he's a bad person or anything, but he's just too old. He can't do it. And he chose a vice president who would have no appeal because he didn't want anyone to swing towards his vice president. But so both sides of politics now have terrible candidates for the presidency. It's still possible that either or both of them could be replaced, but they're also both very stubborn old men, and they seem like they're determined to go round again.
Yeah, just crazy, but gives us no end of things to talk about. Greg, thanks. See you next week.
Thanks, Kieran.